We've got to talk more about A-Rod here because good lord, did we kick the hornet's nest, apparently, with this topic. There's two reasons we seem to be continuously getting from the anti-A-Rod people. I'm going to address both of them here. Number one is that people are still mad that he left for the money. But can I just ask people something? What if A-Rod had done this now, in today's day and age, where a lot's changed about narratives in the game of baseball since 2000? Because I gotta tell you, I was watching Alex versus A-Rod episode 1, which is really awesome, by the way. If you haven't watched it, you should go watch. But they're talking about how the difference in those contracts between the Mariners and Rangers was $120 million. If that happened today, would the narrative really be A-Rod's greedy and hashtag Payrod? No, I think we all know what the storyline would be if this happened today, and it would not be about A-Rod. Which is why I can't blame him for doing what he did back when he did it. Can all of you look yourself in the eyes and say, there's no way I'd do what A-Rod did? I have a hard time believing everybody would say yes. I would take the contract A-Rod took too. 100 out of 100 times. And if your answer is you definitively do something different, legitimately I'd like to hear in the comments why that is and why you'd have the wherewithal to make that decision, especially in your mid-20s with that much money on the table. Can I compare A-Rod here to another tantalizing number one pick out of high school who had ridiculous pedigree, had a little bit of a polarizing personality, and left for the money? Look, right after it happened, Nationals fans weren't happy. Who can blame them? 25 years later, should Bryce Harper essentially be ignored in Nationals history? I don't think so. How about this guy too? 25 years from now, should Angels fans act like Shohei never existed? Again, that doesn't really seem right. But with the Mariners and the fans, people essentially act like he never existed. Look at this wall up at spring training. There's a guy on here with a career 80 WRC plus on the wall. A-Rod is not. And it feels hard to tell the story of the Mariners without the guy that was arguably the best player. Number two is people seem to really have a gripe about A-Rod juicing. Which, yeah, he was the most famous player to ever be caught and suspended for steroids. He also wasn't caught and suspended in Seattle, so it almost feels like people are just using that as another reason to tack on their hatred, where if people had loved him here and revered him here, I don't know if the vitriol over the juicing would be the same. I know age has a lot to do with this argument too, and personally, I just don't really have a problem with the steroid users in general. I think Bonds, Clemens, all those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. The league never cracked down on it until they got put in a bad light, and then they turned it on their players because they couldn't take any accountability. It also feels like people really want to pick and choose who they want to be mad at and not be mad at over PEDs, because there's been a handful or two of Mariners since A-Rod that have been on PEDs, and they don't get the same type of animosity, which makes me think it again really just all goes back to point number one. Look, I'm not asking the Mariners to retire his number, but for a franchise that historically has so little to celebrate, 25 years later, it feels like more than enough time's passed to acknowledge the best shortstop in the history of baseball, remember the good stuff, and put him in the Team Hall of Fame.